Hey, how's it going? I don't know how long this is gonna go in because it could end at any time. I don't know if I've cleared enough space for another video on my phone, but here we are. Hi. Please observe my signs. I should probably put this a little bit closer. Particularly the green ones. Okay. So, can I just start off by saying that well, yesterday I felt like warm syrup. Today I'm just loosey-goosey. Similar condition. So, I pull the card from the Shaman's Dream Oracle deck, and it is number 36. Lost in Space. And the subtitle is Needing Direction. So, well, one thing I noticed right away is the number, well, I usually notice it, but number 36, which if you put them together, 3 and 6 is 9. And in the Rider-Waite tarot, the one I feel like they're all tarots are kind of modeled after, mostly, a lot. Anyway, in its sort of cycle that you can read through the cards, the number 9 is like you're almost done with whatever's going on, and it just occurred to me that yes, we're about to be in, or I guess we are in election season, because I woke up from a nap earlier, and when I turned on YouTube, everybody, like the channels that I have, a lot of them were talking about the debate. But I won't talk about that. But it's almost going to be election time. It's September now. It's like a hop, skip, and a jump until January. So that is part of a cycle of completion. But it could also be other things on the planet that have been going through it and kind of thrashing and rolling and just being really turbulent, like turbulent times, turbulent weather, turbulent social conditions, and wars, and lower scale versions of that type of activity, like war stuff. And there, the world is big. It's hard to keep track of everything, especially if you have to go looking for it. And I don't know how many of us can like break out of our own stuff to think about paying attention to stuff like that. Which, okay, I'll just roll into something else. That kind of aligns with what I was thinking earlier. Is yesterday I had watched actually the Paranormal 60, and there were two. And yesterday or Wednesdays was Kevin Bacon is on the title card. But the one from, I guess, the week before, Dave Schrader, the host, was talking about magic with John E.L. Tenney, who's this is his official title, a paranormal guy. He's an investigator, a lecturer, a philosopher. Oh my. About a lot of things. And I definitely recommend that you watch that show, The Paranormal 60. It's a YouTube show, podcast that's you can watch. He does one you can listen to. I guess he used radio. Dave Schrader, also a paranormal guy, but very productive, abundant. He does a lot of stuff, and he's a really nice guy. And also John Tenney seems to be as well. And thing about John Tenney is I've seen him in stuff and I learned a lot about him I just didn't even know, and he's really interesting and funny, really funny. But the first time I have not seen him in a suit like Stan Smith from Family Guy. He was very, he's in his house, he's very casual, he was smoking cigarettes, and I don't know what he was drinking, but he was drinking something. And that's another theme on that show. The hosts, the regular hosts, which are Dave Schrader, Chachi, I don't know what his actual name is, the paranormal detective, oh, come on, brain. I'm blanking out. Sorry. If I remember, let me get a piece of paper. I'll make a note. I'll list their names and put it in the information box. God, I just want to say collection box so much. What is up with that? I have to turn off my mouse so I can write this wrong. So I can write it wrong. Paranormal 60. List those guys. I'll put a link. I'll put 2 links. I'll put the link for both shows I talked about. So anyway, just a last thing about John Tenney. I loved what they were saying, John and Dave, talking about magic, because John Tenney was like, it's everywhere, we do it all the time, we don't know that we're doing it. And like I said, I'll link the show, so I'm not going to have to explain all of it, but I think you should watch it if you just like to hear interesting stuff and funny things that make you laugh that are not horrible. So but on what he was saying about everybody doing spells all the time and not even knowing it, it reminded me of what I had been saying like the day before that, which was or more, where I was like, like, oh, I don't do spells, but it's like I actually, and then I realized you totally do. For example, when I remember and my head's not full of myself and my own stuff, when I'm running water, or if I'm gonna like take a bath, like whatever the case is, like I said, if I don't have my head up mine, I remember other people and the circumstances that they may be in, and I send hope and love and strength and like as much of what they can feel of like how good I'm feeling. If they are in a bad place, I want to share that with them so they can escape to it for however long, to be away from whatever condition they're actually in. So that's like a spell to me. And after I watched that show, apparently John Tenney agrees. So, but then there's other ones that, like I saw somewhere, like to do a certain thing, not to anybody else. I'm not, like, that's why I said I'm not spelling it up, because I just try to, I don't want to use it as like a thing against anybody ever. Anyway, so coming back to this stuff and the thrashing and the turmoil, the things that drive us and even like make us group up together all have power and energy and movement. Like there's actually sort of below the surface, I guess, or out of sight of the thrashing turmoil is movement. Like maybe it happens on a subconscious level, but we're always like sending rays and things out to each other and walking in through each other's fields and things. And like if we're total strangers and we're not even physically touching, we're affecting each other. Like a look could like wreck your day or make your day. Those are powerful things that we do all the time. So we think like magic, we think we're not doing it, we think it's not part of the world. I was watching somebody tripping out about how like magic is evil and curses and stuff was not in the Bible. And I was like, what Bible are you looking at? That thing is full of stuff like that. I mean, it's got a lot of stuff going on in that book, but no curses? Even God in them sometimes is just like a catty bitch, petty, revengeful. In that book, though, I'm not saying that that's God's nature at all. I think when destruction happens, and it is like according to that book, even when it's not a vengeful God, like if there's a reason, because there's parts where it's like God lost patience and God gave many chances, and it's kind of like you have like you've used up all your strikes, and you're kind of like wrecking the experiment and the lab, and it's like it's not just I'm mad at you, 1,000 deaths, or I don't know, biblical language for you're all messed up, you're all effed up. Like, okay, the story of Jonah. On the surface, like what I was remembering was like, okay, he's got a story, so he came to God's attention, and God like gave him some kind of like adventure, or I don't know. God, come on, every time I try to do this I lose crucial words. A quest to go on, and like there's so many, but anyway, so because there's a story about him, and the name, that for some reason God chose him, so there's that's like a highlight or a feature. Are you going or what? No, I guess my sneaky speaker ran out of battery. Darn it. Okay, well, anyway, so he came to God's attention, and there became a story about him, and then there's like he went in the whale, and you would think, which even I remember, like the first time I heard it, I was like, oh my God, he's in a whale. What did he do? I just assumed he was in trouble. He had been in trouble, sort of, because he just defied God's will. God wanted him to do something. And so he had like a tragic thing happen at sea and ended up in the water. And then it was actually him being saved. And whale, I think, is a euphemism for big fish. I don't know. I don't want to get into those weedy details. But it was actually saving him. So it was like the trouble. He was not in trouble anymore at that point. God was like, okay, you're good now. Come back and live. So it's not just like random when he does stuff. The God. And anyway, why did I start talking about that? I don't remember. Anyway, so like the stuff that's all looking like it's bad and scary, and sometimes it is, because that's just the way life is. Like, stuff happens sometimes, and maybe it is totally random, and people die, and other times you can see like a more direct factor for what happens that's violent or just tragic, sudden, like, inexplicable accident, stuff like that. I mean, like, imagine some kind of situation where you're on like a public sidewalk, and somehow someone next to you just walking along, also, you don't know them or anything, and somehow they just end up getting decapitated suddenly. And you're just like, everyone, including the person, is like, whoa, oh my God, how did that just happen? Why? And it's maybe not even like, I don't know, maybe it's God throwing the dice, but also because of the whole split your brain thing, like the sub-level of things that are going on underneath the thrashing and the turmoil, it's all a means to an end, is what I'm trying to get to. And I think that's just life happening, you know. It's an interesting thing, you know, speaking of like spells and affecting and influencing. When there's like a big thing bad that happens, like the fire in Hawaii, let's say, it's not, I don't think there were casualties in that. I think people did get hurt though. And a lot of cultural identity and historical sites have just been decimated, and a lot is gone. And oh man, that must just hurt so bad. And I can't even imagine, like, I just got a little wave of like what it must feel like, and I don't even think that's the tip of the iceberg. I can't even imagine having all of that taken away, and it's like so deeply rooted. It's like an animal. They don't even have to learn anything. They're just born instinctively knowing the value of the stuff there, and like the sacred kind of nature of the place. And it feels really horrible and terrible, and that's, I guess, the purpose of it happening, like for all of us to together be affected and feel stuff because of all of the loss and what happened there. And you know, like under the surface there's all this worry that, probably justifiably so, that moneyed people and developers are gonna come in and like change the whole place into something like a strip mall. I'm imagining is the horror projected that it could turn into, and not give them a chance to be able to live in their homes, to afford to live there, their homeland that they are instinctively connected to. Boy, that's a 9. Who, I don't know, like, oh, so we couldn't pray to have changed that from happening, you know, like when the fires were still happening, we couldn't have said, we got to pray to make this stop. A lot of people probably did, but the thing is we can't really change and affect like fixed incidents, you know, like some things just have to happen, and it's kind of beyond our ken the way that they happen and the why, like the decapitated man, but, or the loss of all of that heartland. There's a grander scheme, a scale to things. So yeah, Hawaii all burnt out and it's at a 0. It's got to start all over. So I guess it's a 10 now. And I kind of got that from this picture, like out in space, grander forces. Well, it doesn't look like she's almost like blowing softly, like, ooh, calm down. You guys are getting overheated up. Like, you're not compensating properly for, you gotta vent. You gotta create an air situation. Like, once you're not gonna have a backdraft. I don't know, well, it's just going. So, I'm gonna read the book, what the guidebook has to say, and not sound like I'm gagging. Lost in space. Feeling lost, needing direction and focus, a 24-hour day. Sometimes in life we lose our way, perhaps falling prey to addictive behaviors, jealousy, comparison, resistance, or fear. This happens especially when we're up-leveling and genuinely changing for the better. A part of us hidden in the... Okay, so a lot of people don't want Maui to be turned into a strip mall, and you know, it's got to happen in nature sometimes too, where like fires happen in sacred sites. Just, you don't hear about it often, but there was that church in Europe, that cathedral that got really messed up. So it does happen. And like that cathedral got a lot of people, up in their emotions and spurred to do things they probably wouldn't have or think about that they wouldn't have until that happened. So same with, Maui. Like it could be like even better than it was before. Yes, stuff was lost, but hopefully there's records somewhere that didn't burn. Like other places besides Maui have to have information about it, right? So not going to be what it was. Not going to get stuff back, but whole new beginning. That's not bad. I mean, it's better than, well, casualties would have been worse. What is happening? Excuse me. Oh. You know what it is? It's concert. It's a concert, so it keeps going like dark and quiet. And I think, well, my music left, and I like to have it in the background. Okay, anyway, you don't care about that. A part of us, hiding in the vast expansiveness of space, wants to sabotage our progress. In the transformative process, our inner world no longer feels safe or inhabitable, Maui, as we find that our thoughts and beliefs have morphed beyond recognition. Maui, you may find yourself adrift in this way right now, unable to focus or determine the next step. You might be tired and simply need to regroup and rest. When you lack direction, the first thing to do is redirect your perspective of time. Like a newborn baby who needs swaddling to feel safe, you're invited to reduce your life visioning to the next 24 hours. Anyone can handle living in 24-hour compartments. Says you, which allows everything to feel grounded and manageable. I'm just thinking, I'm a little skeptical about that because I know how locked in we get into, so many of us get into the 24-hour news cycle. And even if you're not paying attention to that at all, everything is so connected to it somehow, like with the internet in a way that it just never was with the old media platforms. Well, they're still around, but that internet, that young pup causing all kinds of trouble. Where was I? You get lost in space when you imagine being swallowed up in the giant vastness of the future with its dark uncertainty. Or, wow. Or, where did it go? Reflect on how your past has held you captive in a hall of mirrors, a hall of distorted, never-ending mirrors, reminding you of your mistakes, flaws, failures, and losses. Okay, I have had a real problem with that in the past, but I finally realized how destructive it is. Like, oh my God. I don't know, like the words, you can read them and hear them over and over for years, and you're just like, I get it, but you're still doing it. So finally, a penny dropped, the right penny dropped, and I was able to get out of that. Oh my gosh, I recommend it, man. Figure it out if you can, because, light, happy. Immediately, better stuff started happening. Like, get rid of the old garbage. Just do yourself a favor. Ow. Sorry, I'm not trying to get preachy, but I'm just really I'm a proponent of it. It's good. Well, I'm not going to say trust me, because I was just talking to myself earlier and saying, don't trust people that are telling you to trust them. You got to feel that stuff out. And I'm a little suspicious if they're telling you, come on, trust me. No, not that sucker anymore. Anyway, take heart that the simple 24-hour container immediately banishes those two awful extremities away. Oh, externities. Yeah, externities. That word's not making sense, but I'll just keep going. It's me, it's not what's written. You'll find your energy and focus restored as you recognize that you were never lost at all. Keep it simple. Right now, conserve your energy and take care of you in basic fundamental ways, and the world will be right again. Well, I mean, I might have had something when I was, well, I say it from time to time, but tend your garden. Your stuff is right, then, and if everybody's getting their stuff right, then who's out there to screw stuff up? Just saying. So I pulled a card from the Wild Unknown Animal Spirit deck. Wild Unknown Animal Spirit deck. I know that was muffled. I don't know how well it recorded, but it's Tiger. And I love this card because, especially when he was a kitten, in the face, not the stripes. He has stripes, but not like a tiger. He has them like a cat, a tabby cat. But when he was a kitten, you know how their heads are so big? He had this rough area, this like extra fur sticking out, which he still has, but like I said, his head was so big when he was a kitten, it was more pronounced. But this area, this is what my little kitty looks like. It's so crazy. That is his face. I love you. Oh, sorry. Wow. So, notice how white this cat is, and it sure looks like there should be, like, ashes and particles flying around, and fur is just pristine. And I say that, not just because of the colors, but the arrow indicates the fire element, and look around the edges. Is it not on fire? It's not normally like that. It doesn't normally like have a highlight that's obvious, or it doesn't. That's unusual. So I feel like wow. And then it's got this crescent on its forehead, which is like nocturnal. It points to some sort of nocturnal activity, which is a cat thing, right? They like to be up in the middle of the night with the loudest toy ever, swatting it around. But you know what? When that happens, I don't get upset. It makes me really happy. I'm going to read from the book because this is not about a house cat. Lunar Force, Tiger. Lunar Force, ease in darkness, feminine energy. The tiger hunts at night, at one with the silence, fearing nothing. This card reminds us to take in the wild darkness, to allow the lunar forces to soothe and heal our spirits. Sensuality, receptivity, and devotion are all heightened in the midnight hour. And the tiger takes advantage of these boons. Spend some time in silence this evening. Drinking in the potent calm. There is nothing to fear in the stillness except the awakening of your own power. Woo! When in balance, passionate, strong, sensual. When out of balance, overstimulated. To bring into balance, trataka, candle gazing. You know, you could say that this is also a nighttime scene, and it's the way they describe the way the cat, the tiger was described in the guidebook, makes me think of what I was saying about subconscious things, like under the level of, you know, where as eye shot, I guess. It's usually earshot, but as far as the eye can see, hey, that works. But it's so, you know, they're so slinky, and honestly, like I'm not saying that this is something that they actually do, but somehow cats manage to come and go like they were there a second ago and then they're just nowhere to be found. And then all of a sudden they're there again, and you're like, how did you get here? How did you get in, or whatever? And usually it's like something's open, like the door or the window that I've forgotten about. But even if that's not the case, even if they're just like in the house with you, they move around so silently for the most part. You don't know where they're coming and going. Like, mine doesn't wear a bell or anything. He's just running around naked. So he's not making much noise. And he's really fluffy, so he's got big... He doesn't get like the under hair thing like my Maine Coon used to, but he's got like enough fur around his toes alone that just muffles the sound of him walking around. And he doesn't have like long nails or anything, claws. Yeah, but anyway, he'll just he'll be up in the window, and I won't realize he'll be up there, and he'll all of a sudden jump down and scare the living out of me because I didn't know he was there. And I would have been sitting here the whole time because this is where I sit a lot. Anyway, and just slinking around silently, sort of this undercurrent that I just had like strong and dangerous. Well, I mean, isn't that happening on the surface? But I guess it's processing the strong and dangerous that's above, so to speak, into something, of use, something workable to complete the end of the action, like to get to 10. If that makes any sense. So, the result of all of this together happening, I believe will be positive. Because if you look at things in a different way than collecting what was tragic and terrible and sad and made us feel bad, well, you don't gotta collect it because it's not gonna stop happening. No matter how good things get. Whenever this comes up, I always think of Hank Venture or Hank and Dean riding on those levitating bikes that they have. And the episode, oh shoot, let me write it down. The episode where Hank and Dean die, and then Brock and Dr. Venture, Rusty, reminisce about replacing all of the Hanks and Deans because they get killed a lot. And it's just like, yeah, they died, but no big deal. I don't have to get sad about it. We got another pod over here, or, whatever starter, sourdough boy starter. Hank and Dean, slugs, that's what he called them. There, and then you get to see they're like unformed. They can't speak well, like their skin's not fully, they look like the Invisible Man, and they're all like drippy, and their, I guess, limbs are not rigid, so they can't like stand still or up very well. They're just a mess. But Hank is still like trying to talk shit. Anyway, thank you and good night. Stop. No, really, stop.